Do you like spooky, kooky things? Do you like murder and gore and mystery? We'll keep watching because we're going to talk about Wednesday today.
Hey everyone, my name is Rachel,
And my name is Katie.
and welcome back to Project Nerd, where nearly everything is reviewed and discussed. And today we will be reviewing the hit Netflix show Wednesday. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give us a follow on our Instagram and Facebook. Without further ado, let's get right into it. So, coming into this show, I don't know a whole lot about the Addams family. I mean, obviously I know like the characters. I've seen a little bit of the original movies and show like in passing, but it was never something that I had seen a ton of or been exposed to a lot of. So I was coming in with a very open mind, let's say. Um and after this I am totally hooked. I mean, everything about this is just so much fun. I think it really captures, from what I know of the personality of the characters, I think it really captures it. Um, the relationship between Wednesday and her brother and the rest of her family, the relationship between Morticia and Gomez, I think is captured perfectly. And I just think all of the casting is spot on. I mean, you could not have done any better with that. And I was a little hesitant at first with the whole Tim Burton thing. Tim Burton is very much like an acquired taste, I think. But I think you did a really good job with this. You can definitely see like the Tim Burton isms in it, but it's not overwhelming. You know, there's definitely you definitely feel his sort of flair, but it's not everything that you're getting. It's a little bit milder. Um, so yeah, overall, I thought it was a great representation of what the Adams family is, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's like restart the segment. So I'm gonna restart my speaking point here.
Okay.
Notes editor and restarting this part. I like the fact that it was so stylized, and I like the fact that it kept Tim Burton on because he did the other movies. So the same feel of it. It's like it was a different like shooting style, but it was telling her story, not the story of everybody else. So it wasn't supposed to feel like everybody else. And I think the cast, including Jenny Ortega, was very well done. Like the characters and mannerisms were just, it was really cool. And I just liked, like I said, I got hooked on it. I felt like a teenager watching a I felt like a teenager like watching my first like spooky TV show or hearing my first like emo band. I just like that's the feeling it gave me. Like I just wanted to lean into it more and more and more and just envelop me.
Yeah, definitely. Finally, something so much better than like Riverdale or whatever the hell's on the CW nowadays. I don't even know anymore. But this is like that on steroids, and it's so much better. It's just everything about it is so much fun. Um and the casting for all the other supporting characters are also great. The dichotomy between Wednesday and Enid is amazing. I love that. Um and I think her casting was perfect. The way that they kind of, that relationship between like the dark, broody emo girl and the light, bubbly, optimistic kind of girl is totally a classic, and they executed it so well. So, Yeah, it's great. It's all great. It's just all so great.
I like the fact that they used other characters besides Wednesday. Like there were other character arcs. Like they're not like they weren't big character arcs, but there were other character arcs. Like what wasn't her story wasn't the only thing that's happening. And it was a nice shift. Also, they used the characters' differences well, like Enid and Wednesday. They seem like two opposite people, like would never talk to, not the given situation. But it's kind of like milk and honey. They just work well together, even though they're different. It's like the contrast is like yin and yang, or and like they really develop that. Even with the other students too, like with Bianca and Tyler, like they put those two together and gave them a dynamic and them a story and gave the parents a story, did a flashback for the parents, they did, and even included the headmistress, which is now part of the story now. So everyone got tied together somehow, some way. So it wasn't just like introducing a character, just to introduce a character.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's story, there was never a point where I was like, oh, why are we spending time on this character? I don't care. Everyone's story was compelling because they were relatable. Enid not being able to fit in with the rest of her family is a relatable story. Um, Bianca's conflict with her mother is a relatable story. Morticia and Gomez's story is not as relatable, but it's still fun. So, and it's quintessentially them. So, I love that as well. Um, so yeah, all the supporting stories tied together really nicely. And they didn't take away from the overarching story of the murder mystery, which I also loved. I love a good murder mystery.
I do like the murder mystery part of it, and but one thing I was going to say though is it takes a good 2 or 3 episodes for them to really start like pulling you into it. But the one thing I really did appreciate was the fact that everything was dark, everything was creepy, everything was moody. They had blood, they had gore, like they weren't shying away from the fact that, oh yeah, you're gonna, here's a killer on the loose. Oh yeah, it's bloody. Oh look, there's arms everywhere. Yeah, don't go hiking, you'll die. Like they didn't shy away from that fact. They left that part fully intact. And I do appreciate that they left Thing with Wednesday as a secret caretaker or um look after her, please, because I think that was just like a very nice like character building touch for the family.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's character that is almost not a character. I mean, I don't want to listen, no disrespect to my man Thing, but I mean, it's a hand. It doesn't talk. It doesn't like, you know, but the way they used I don't know, in this show was amazing. It was great. I mean, episode 6, I think it was. We all know we'll get there. Made me tear up a little bit. I mean, over a hand. So like, that was great. It showed how much that showed how much her parents really care for her, and it was just he provided great little like comic relief moments, which was awesome. um I loved watching the show knowing that it was literally just a guy whose entire body was green screened except for his hand, and he was just sort of crawling around. That's incredible. I love just thinking about that every day.
Like
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they did a little. I saw a little clip on like the how they filmed that, and this dude's holding his hand like this, like moving his hands like all around, and then he's like doing these
It's
weird
so
body
awesome.
positions, like
Hmm.
trying to like, and then he had to go back and shoot it again without the hand there, with like an invisible weight. I was like, so much work, but it was worth it.
Absolutely. It was so worth it. It was amazing. And I like that about Netflix and other networks like HBO over just regular network television, because they have the budget to do things like that and they're not afraid to do it. They're not afraid to throw in the fake blood and the gore and all that stuff when it's appropriate. And even though this show was not, now it's not an HBO show, it's no Game of Thrones when it comes to gore and blood or whatever, but it's just enough. It's enough that you understand the stakes. You understand like what's that, you're in actual real danger. Um but it's not excessive. It's to the point where, a teenager could, or a young teenager could still watch the show and not be traumatized.
Yep.
All right. I think episode 1 does a great job of just establishing our story. We need to get introduced to our main character, all of our side characters, and I think this episode is does a good job with that. Um the opening introduction scene for Wednesday is just it's amazing. I mean, the her putting the piranhas in the swimming pool is so awesome. I love that so much. And it shows how much she cares for her brother. She actually does care about her family. Um, so that's amazing. That's a great introduction for her. Um, we see the school, which gives me very like dark Hogwarts kind of vibes. I'm totally into that. Um, we get all of our side characters. We get Enid, who is the complete antithesis to Wednesday. We get the bully character in the form of Bianca, who turns out to not actually be that bad. We get the weird kid. We get two love interests, potentially, one who's normal and one who is not normal. Um, and um, and then we get the start of our story with the monster, and we get two deaths. So, they're jumping right into it. And I think as far as first episodes go, it definitely hooks you in.
Yeah. I like in the first episode, she goes, "I'll fight you." Goes Bianca's, "I'll fight you. I don't care. I don't care who you are. I'll fight you." Okay. And just like gets into like death by combat trial just because she knows she's good enough not to lose. Just like the confidence in that is just amazing. And what she basically did to the bullies is what everybody secretly wished they wanted to do it to their bullies. We've all thought about doing that to our bullies, and if you didn't, then I wouldn't believe a word you said. And it did. It remind me of like Dark Hogwarts, but like without the magic part of it.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah, it's like a cross between like Hogwarts and Camp Half Blood,
mm,
almost, or something like that. It's just I like the vibe of it, and you never sort of forget that you're at a school, because they're always kind of doing like school things. You know, in the second episode, you don't really see them a lot in class, um,
mm.
which is definitely different from like a Harry Potter type thing where you saw them in class quite a bit. Um, but in the second episode, they have like a tournament, like a um, I don't even know. what you would call it, they do the Poe Cup in the second episode, and that's such like a school thing to do, like a spirit week. Every kid had a spirit week at their school, or like something where it was all just like fun and games and competing against each other, and it felt like they were really at school. um and then you still have all of like the murder monster stuff going on, so I just love the whole vibe of like the world that we're in right now. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, they didn't shy away from like the violence. Like I said, like the first thing they see is like first episode, oh, hiker dies. Okay. And then Wednesday's like, oh, I'm gonna fight you. And she draws blood. And then she's in the hospital area and she meets this Rowan, and he's like way too he's just too quiet. Like he's too quiet, and like I don't trust people that are quiet because like there's always they're hiding some shit. Like, no, like I don't trust them. And then Wednesday has to go to therapy. Man, I'd hate to be her therapist. Her therapist, I would be like, who would willingly want to be a therapist? I don't get it.
That
But of
is
course, then she escapes the therapy and immediately starts hatching an escape plan. I'm like, yeah, I would too. But then she runs into one of the most insufferable characters I have on the show for me is Tyler. I just can't. Like he's just so plain and normal and just like I can't. I don't get it.
well, there's got to be at least someone. There's got to be one plain normal person.
Yeah. And then she's in the coffee shop and then it's like, I can't get you coffee till we fix our espresso machine. And she goes, I can fix it for you. I can fix it for you. It seems easy. I could do it in 10 minutes, but you have to get me out of here first. And he's like, what? And then he goes back, how did you know how to do that? She goes, oh, I like to play with my steam powered guillotine when I was a baby. What? It's just like one of those like moments that caught you off guard. Like it reminded you that you're watching Timber and you're like, oh, that's right. That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, the dry humor in all of it is great. Um, yeah, the fact that she has to go to therapy is hilarious, because that's exactly what you would do in the real world if you met someone like her. You'd be like, this girl needs some therapy. Um, so that's hilarious. And I love the yeah, I like the sort of dichotomy of like the two love interests, and one being sort of more normal to her and in Xavier, and then the actual like normal kid. Um I think that's a good kind of cross between the two. And it's very traditional, but um it definitely works here. Um and one last thing about episode 2, love the plot twist of the principal being a shapeshifter. Did not see that coming, and it's great. That moment at the end of episode 2 got me like to actually jump out of my seat. I was like, oh my god. Which, like, I should have expected that she had some sort of power, but for some reason I was not thinking of it, and so I was like, whoa, very cool.
Yeah, I was thrown off by that too, and I was like, oh, that's sly, but I like it. And in the first and second episode, they start introducing the murder mystery part of it. And they she goes to this carnival. She goes to this carnival and she like says, "Hey Tyler, can you take me to the train station after during the fireworks?" And of course, she doesn't make it to the fireworks. She doesn't make it to the fireworks, and they try to beat the Tyler up for talking to uh the one of the Nevermore kids. So all of a sudden, you go from like a nice carnival scene to like Wednesday being violently thrown up against a tree, like being choked by like telekinesis and telekinesis. Then all of a sudden, this big monster comes out of everywhere and just like kills freaking Rowan, and then every in the next day, like, oh, he's not dead. That was all your imagination. You're crazy, right? What? No. It just kind of starts setting up the murder mystery. But the other thing I appreciated about the boating scene is that one, it showed that yes, this is school. But she said, why does Bianca always win? Because no one ever makes it back. Everybody sinks. And she goes, well, what if we did what they do? And then Thing pops up and goes, what you need? And starts essing with everybody. But of course, in true Tim Burton style, that's not the point of what she's doing. That's just a way to get her there. That's the way to get her there. But she really finds out more about the mystery. She goes, I'm just here to win this race. It turns out, oh look, this is my ancestor Goody's tomb. Okay. Yeah, like they start introducing the murder mystery part of it.
It's a good balance between um just being teens and doing teen things and school stuff, and also there's this violent, horrifying murder mystery going on. So, and you never really feel like one is overtaking the other. So, yeah, they balance those two storylines very well.
In episode 3, Wednesday wakes up to a bunch of society members, and it turns out it's the Nightingales, which is the same society her mother was in, and she immediately goes, I don't want to be in this, and leaves. Like she goes, it's like, well, now you found us. Now you can either be in us or we can, hurt you. And she goes, well, I don't care what you do because I don't want to be in it. She walks away because I'm good. And then you can still see like how one of the sirens was in it, and like he has like a black eye and stuff too.
From, yes, from the previous episode. I love how this show uses Wednesday to like subvert those kind of expectations, and you've brought it up a little bit already, where they're using like so many like classic tropes that you would expect from this type of show. Like, oh, secret society at the monster school. Of course, there's going to be a secret society. And her reaction to that is just like, meh, whatever. I don't really care. So like she's being strung along on this like on such a traditional and kind of predictable hero's journey, but she's taking the opposite road every single time, which is hilarious and just makes the show so much more interesting because I'm not even mad about it, you know. And I just love that about her. Same thing with like the two um love interests that she has. She doesn't really Xavier and Tyler, she doesn't really care all that much. And um especially with um especially with the dance scene in episode, what episode was that? 4? Yeah, 4. Um
Yep, 4.
in episode 4, that is like a classic school thing where everyone is thinking about like getting dressed up and who are you going to bring to the dance and blah blah blah, and that is just not her prerogative at all, and I respect it 100%. you know she is just totally in on the she's
I'm gonna
fully
solve.
into the murder mystery,
It's
and
like I
I'm
don't care
here
about
for it.
you. I just care about your murder mystery. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So one of the cool things happened this episode, which I like once this happened, like set the whole tone for the series, and I was like, I love it, is that they're supposed to do community outreach like once a year. They do community outreach. Oh my God, we need to go
I
help
know
each other.
exactly what
And
you're
then she
talking
goes,
about.
why? They hate us anyway. What's the point? So yeah, but like she's dressed up as a pilgrim, and everyone's supposed to be like, come to Pilgrim World and help a Pilgrim World, which is a direct throwback to the movies in the 90s at the summer camp, by the way. And she's just like, he's like, you're on candy duty. And she's like, I'd rather do this. She goes, well, you can't do that. I said, well, I'm gonna do this anyway. So like they make her do it and she goes, oh, this candy? You mean this candy that was basically like made by um made by a plant that was basically be forced to grown by slaves and now that you're mass consuming because of your capitalistic ways. And then all of a sudden like the whole crowd is like, I don't want any more fudge. Collectively goes, I don't want fudge. And then she finds Eugene and helps Eugene out and then she go like she straight up beats the normies up and goes, I don't care about you. I don't care about any of you. Just like straight beats him up and throws him in the stocks and walks away. And he goes, we're gonna do what I need now because that's what I care about. Is I need, not what you need or what you wanted me to need. And she walks into this breaks into the barn because somehow Wednesday is proficient at cello and breaking and entering and you know, that kind of stuff. Being a mortician apparently too, just breaks into the barn and like just so she can put her own path forward. And then she sees Joseph Crackstone. And when I saw that statue or that face, I was like, can I just reach to this screen and punch him? Because I kind of just like burn the statue. Can I just burn the statue? Because like even looking at this makes me angry.
It perfectly encapsulates like the small town vibes where it's like you're known for literally nothing. So they're just you're grasping at straws trying to find something that will attract like tourism or whatever, and the only thing this town has is pilgrims. It's such a quintessential like small town thing, and I hate everything about it. It's just awful. Um yeah, I will say that is maybe the only my if I had to have like one little critique about the show, it would be that it does kind of seem like she always has the exact skills that she needs. You know, like she is kind of like proficient at everything. Um, but that would be like my only thing, really. I mean, and even then, they still come up with kind of like quirky little explanations for it. Like in the earlier episode where she was like, she knows how to fix the espresso machine because she used to practice on her steam powered guillotine. That's hilarious. I mean, it's really funny. Um, yeah, these middle episodes, they're definitely more of like character building episodes, which I appreciate. You know, you get a lot of growth from Wednesday in these episodes because she does become a little kind of wrapped up in the whole murder mystery thing. And she doesn't realize that she's hurting the people that are close to her, you know? Um, so there's a lot of good growth for her in the realization that not everything is about, you know, solving mystery and stuff. Being friends with people is also enjoyable. Um, and then the flashback episode with Morticia and Gomez is just great. That's like my favorite episode. I love that one so much.
I was getting super like 90s like nostalgia vibes looking at that. I never went to a dance in the 90s, but like every single bit of that was spot on. Like, and it was weird. And it was weird seeing like Morticia and Gomez as teenagers. Like, 'cause you've never seen them as teenagers. Like, you've never saw them young. Like, "Oh, when we
Yeah.
were young." Um, so I'm gonna harken real quick back to episode 3. And Joseph Crackstone, the founder of the town, who's a terrible person, um, there's a part, the end of that episode was just so satisfying for me. So they have this whole big scene. They have this dance routine. Ina's so excited about her dance routine, and they pull all these like people out to have this huge ceremony. And she goes, and then once Wednesday has that vision and finds out that like, oh, you tried to kill my original ancestor. Okay, bet. Turns around and just like literally as the ceremony's starting, lights the statue on fire and like and goes from this like campy like, oh look, hey look, this is a yeah, it's celebration to like full blown like I don't know what music she was playing, but like serious is like it's the music you hear when like shit gets real kind of music. Like full blown
Oh,
trailer,
I
just like
know the
going
song.
so hard on it. She's like, and I'm like, that's what I wanted to see. And that's part I wanted to see. And the crazy thing is, when you're talking about the flashback with her parents, literally the kid that they accused of them murdering was part of the Crackstone family. It was the last remaining Crackstone family. So like it just ties it all in this neat little like plot filling ball, and I was like, cool.
Hmm. Yeah, and these slower episodes in the middle, they don't even really feel like filler, because we're still every once in a while getting little bits of information about the murder mystery, So every episode has its purpose, which is cool. Why did they do the whole community outreach thing? Well, it's because they that led them to led her to the discovery about her ancestor Goody and her relationship to Cragstone. And why did they do the flashback episode with uh, Morticia and Gomez? Well, it's because you found out about the Gates family and this family that lived in the town that um, hates all the monster kids. So you're they're going through this in a seemingly like normal way. Again, they're going about like normal school stuff. Um, but you're slowly picking out more and more information that's going to help eventually lead it all to the conclusions um, regarding the attacks. So again, it's a great balance between like character moments, um, and also furthering the plot, and also just showcasing like life at a wacky school in a wacky town and hijinks and shenanigans. And um yeah, it's just every episode's a lot of fun. There was never an episode that felt boring, I guess.
Now is the time we talk about the scene and the episode that everybody loves, which is the fourth one. Everyone loves the fourth one because of the dance scene. Um, I'm gonna start this one off by simply just saying that there are two guys after her and she's completely oblivious the whole time. But yet she somehow magically walks by a window with the only dress she would ever consider wearing being in it. Okay, that was obviously written in there, plot armor. And it's a beautiful dress, I'm not gonna lie. And then the only reason she even accepts the invite from Xavier is because she was caught sneaking into his art studio. She wasn't actually there to help anybody. She wasn't actually being romantic or anything. She just was trying to cover up a lie. That was all it was. So, but I liked seeing the dance. It's like what would a school dance look like in the not so in the outcast world, where one that everybody isn't, well, everyone is strange, different, and unusual.
Yeah, and it turns out it looks a lot like a normal kid's dance. I mean, granted, they had a lot more money for decorations and stuff than my school's ever had, but but yeah, I mean that kind of shows. And even then, you still had that little moment between Enid and who was it? The was it the sheriff's? No, not the sheriff's son, the mayor's son. Um, who came with her, and it was like, oh, they're not all that different from us. They're doing the same things that we are. Um, and then ended it with a classic Carrie moment, which I'll never say no to.
I saw that and I was like, and she's like, I was like, really? That's what you chose? And then Wednesday's like, in this show, she goes, couldn't even get real blood. Pathetic. It's like you couldn't even get real blood. Pathetic. And then like she goes, "Oh no, Eugene," and starts running for the door and save Eugene. But before I get too sidetracked, I want to talk about that little dance number she did. Everybody loved it. And the thing that like I wasn't expecting the dance scene because the way she portrays her character, I wouldn't think that she would do something like that. I won't think that that's something she's like, but to pop out into this like choreographed, like mesmerizing dance, and all of a sudden you're like, but you're quiet, but you're just like, you're self-centered and you love being alone and you hate everything that's like social and happy, but yeah, you just popped out this amazing dance. I just like mind character blown. I was like, what?
Yeah, it's a different side to her character, which I think was really cool. That's what is great about these episodes. You really get to see like who she is as a character, and she's so much more complex and interesting than she was ever portrayed in the original show and movies, because there you had to focus on the family as a whole. Now that she's in her own show, she is really getting the chance to shine. And I love the
Mm.
route they took her character, that she's not just like you know, oh, she's quiet, she hates everything, it's fun, and she doesn't like to do anything and stuff like that. She actually does have like feelings and um stuff like that. That sounded so like, oh, she's got feelings. Um, but yeah, she is still a person. So, so yeah, seeing that was definitely pretty cool.
And with the way they set up having the one episode where all the family is there is kind of ingenious. They set it up like, what if we have a parents' weekend? And you see the parents of like all the other kids, and you get like that like they would like give you a little like insight of like what these kind of characters do, like because they had the parents with the no faces, and they had the werewolf parents, and they look just like as you would think they would look.
Hmm.
But another thing that episode 5 did really well is up it set up the deeper mystery tone of it. Because after Eugene got attacked, she runs out the dance, she's covered in paint, and then she runs into the woods to try to save Eugene, and he gets attacked, and he's gravely injured. He's in a coma. And then her parents visit. Her literal like her parents visit, and then her father gets arrested because of some new uncovered evidence. And it just so happily seemed to be that it was at in the end that he was innocent. And when that in the episode, it gave you a major clue about like a major clue that in the end that you can figure out that helped you in the end and be like, so that was the murderer. Like it also showed off how bigoted the town actually is against the outcast. They aren't gonna say it, but that's how they're not gonna say it, but that's how they actually acted. And I'm gonna do one real quick line about six, and then I'm going to close this section out because it's getting a little bit long. But in six, she really starts to accept the fact that she's having visions and starts listening to them. And she goes to this whole thing where she just like takes them on a so-called friendship date or night out. But it's really them being chased around a house by the scary Hyde monster. And it's just something that you're not really like I was expecting it to have a kind of like horror movie feel eventually, but like being chased through this house and at the end of it, Enid and Tyler are like, "Are you insane? What's wrong with you?" Then somehow magically Xavier shows up, and then they're all saved, and then she finally gets called out for how self-centered. Sorry. Then she finally gets called out for how self-centered she's been this whole time.
Yeah. Episode 6 is definitely um the turning point, I think, in the show where you're like, all right, we're starting to gear up towards the finale now. And I think you can kind of tell because every episode previous kind of revolved around um some sort of school activity, which I thought was kind of cute. Like the first episode was obviously like the start of the school year, and then they did the Spirit Week poke up thing, and then they did the outreach program, and then they did the school dance, and then they did the parents weekend, and it was like all kind of fun and games, and you're learning a little bit more um about the mystery and stuff like that. And then episode 6, you're like, whoa, okay, now we're getting into it. This is like now we're in the end game. So yeah, 6 was definitely the good like tonal shift of the show where you're like, all right, now it's monster time.
What was your hunch? Who did you think the killer was? And what gave you that idea? Again, anyway, my name is Katie,
My name is Rachel.
and this has been Project Nerd. Have a good day.